Why doesn't he just say, finally to our enemies? Or why doesn't he say, finally to our sworn enemies?
The implication is that preordained. It's their decision, and therefore they can change their decision.
Yes, yes, it's a very clever form of phrasing, really. Finally, to those nations that would make themselves our adversary, we offer not a pledge, we're not going to pledge, but a request that both sides begin anew the quest for peace before the dark powers of destruction unleashed by science engulf all humanity in planned or accidental self-destruction. So we have destruction and then self-destruction. What would accidental self-destruction be?
Misinterpreting a radio signal to think an attack is
Yeah,
coming.
there was something, you may not believe this, but there were 2 episodes in which the North American radar early defense warning system, once they saw the full moon coming up over the horizon and they thought it was an attack, and we went to DEFCON whatever. And another time it was a flock of geese. I'm not kidding you. Or the famous movie The Bedford Incident, in which a naval ship is armed with a nuclear weapon and it is playing cat and mouse with a Russian submarine, and it has a nuclear anti-submarine device, and everyone's on edge, and the captain is explaining to someone who's with him while they're in the command center, we're not going to fire first, but if he fires 1, then we'll fire 1. Well, what did fire 1 mean to the guy who's sitting there hovering over the toggle switch? It meant fire 1. So he pulls the switch. Missile goes off. The captain is alarmed, and he says, abort. Now, if you ever hoped that an electronic switch would work, and you would actually get a response, you would hope that when you press that abort button, the missile would blow up. But it doesn't. Accidental nuclear war possible? Of course. It's possible all kinds of ways. Misinterpreting signals, misinterpreting data. It's one of the reasons why the hotline was installed. What's the hotline?
Direct line between DC and...
Yes, it's a direct telecommunication line where the leaders of the 2 countries could actually talk one to another. It's called a hotline. In order to circumvent the possibility of accidental nuclear war, that was certainly one of its reasons for coming into existence. We dare not tempt them with weakness, for only when our arms are sufficient beyond doubt can we be certain beyond doubt, a nice parallelism, that they will never be employed. This is the old doctrine of strength through peace, deterrence, but neither can 2 great and powerful groups of nations, what would these groups be in terms of, say, military alliances? We're doing a little history here along with analysis. Well, maybe not. I think not. Vinny?
NATO and the Warsaw Pact?
Yes, NATO and the Warsaw Pact. Yes. We don't talk about these too much anymore as a pair. But NATO, the NATO nations, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and the Warsaw Pact, named after Warsaw, Poland, which was an arrangement of a number of essentially satellite countries of the Soviet Union. But neither can 2 great and powerful groups of nations take comfort from our present course, both sides overburdened by the cost of modern weapons. True. Both sides overburdened by the cost of modern weapons, both rightly alarmed by the steady spread of the deadly atom, meaning it wasn't just 2 countries that had the nuclear bomb, yet both racing to alter that uncertain balance of terror that stays the hand of mankind's final war. An uncertain balance of terror doesn't sound like a very good thing to have. What does stay the hand mean? It's a somewhat older phrase, too. Stay the hand. What does that mean? Yeah, keep it from happening. It phrase is often used when you stay the hand of execution, say. Here it's stay the hand of war. Then, thinking now again in paragraphs, he's gone through all of this. He's gone through the finally. He's gone through every category of friend. He's gone through the foes. And now he's going to say finally about nuclear war, and then at the end of that paragraph he's come to a stop. Mankind's final war. So, let us begin anew. That's very effective rhetorically. You've come to a kind of climax with the idea of the destruction of humankind, and you pause, and then so is here a kind of logical signpost. Thus, so, let us begin anew, remembering on both sides that civility is not a sign of weakness. I like that phrase, particularly in today's political climate. Civility is not a sign of weakness. And sincerity is always subject to proof. I like that, too. What is the version of sincerity is always subject to proof that we got with the Strategic Arms Limitation Treaty? A phrase that essentially is another version of sincerity is always subject to proof. Trust but verify. Exactly. Trust but verify. So if someone's sincere, you trust them, but verify. Now you can say that's a little oxymoronic. What does oxymoronic mean? It comes from the Greek words meaning wise fool, meaning you can't quite put them together. That oxymoronic, wise fool. Well, I'd rather verify than just trust. Let us never negotiate out of fear, but let us never fear to negotiate. Now, you can check in your Corbett, that's a certain kind of scheme. I don't think so. Antimetaboly, yep, close, good guess. It was said that John Kenneth Galbraith, the economist, gave this line to Kennedy. It's a good line. It works, doesn't it? Let us never negotiate, nice alliteration, out of fear, but let us never fear to negotiate. Let both sides explore what problems unite us instead of belaboring those problems which divide us. Again, here, a very simple kind of parallelism and antithesis. Let both sides, for the first time, formulate serious and precise proposals for the inspection and control of arms. You know, the wonderful thing is this became true. Took a while, took quite a while, but this hope became true. We have far fewer nuclear weapons now than we did before strategic arms limitation talks began. We still have an awful lot. Let both sides seek to invoke the wonders of science instead of its terrors. Together, let us explore the stars, conquer the deserts, eradicate disease, tap the ocean depths, and encourage the arts and commerce. Well, all that seems quite clear. Let both sides unite to heed in all corners of the earth the command of Isaiah to undo the heavy burdens and let the oppressed go free. And if a beachhead of cooperation may push back the jungle of suspicion. Now, I'm not sure this image works. Do you think this image works? A beachhead of cooperation pushing back a jungle of suspicion? No, I'm not sure. Maybe a wasteland of suspicion? I'm not sure. It's a tough one. Let both sides join in creating a new endeavor, not a new balance of power, not a new balance of power, but a new world of law where the strong are just and the weak secure and the peace preserved. Polysyndeton, and, a nice sort of parallelism. Strong are just, the weak are secure, are is understood there, so it's elided, and the peace preserved. All this will not be finished in the first 100 days, period. Nice alliteration. It's not going to do it. Why would he pick 100 days? Yes, it's often used as a marker of what a presidential administration might do, because it's often said that if you have any kind of a mandate and you've won the election, you're going to try to do things fairly quickly. So he says, all this will not be finished in the first 100 days, period, nor will it be finished in the first 1,000 days, nor in the life of this administration, nor even perhaps in our lifetime on this planet. So that is, he has laid out a very ambitious program, but he says it will not be, nor will it be, nor will it be, nor will it be. An example of what? Climax in part, yes, very good. And what else? Nor.
Polysyndeton?
Kind of polysyndeton, yeah, or anaphora. It's nor will it be. It's not, they're not actually connectives, but they do begin each clause, yes. Yep. So in your hands, now he turns to the audience. In your hands, my fellow citizens, because he's just said, but let us begin. More than mine will rest the final success or failure of our course. So he is now turning to the individuals, to the citizens. Since this country was founded, each generation has been summoned to give testimony to its national loyalty. But this is a different kind of patriotism than knee-jerk patriotism. The graves of young Americans who answered the call to service surround the globe. A very interesting use of the phrase, surround the globe. Very interesting use of that verb, surround. Now the trumpet summons us again, not as a call to bear arms, though arms we need, not as a call to battle, though embattled we are. An example of, how about battle and embattled? What's that an example of? Yes, Jake?
Oh, I can't even pronounce it.
Yes, you can, try.
Polyptyton.
Polyptyton, yes. It's a word that has the same root, used in variation. He hasn't done that much in this speech, hasn't done it nearly as much as Elie Wiesel has done it. But here it works, I think, in part because it's used very sparingly, not as a call to battle, though embattled we are, but a call to bear the burden. We're back to bearing a burden now, which was mentioned at the beginning of the speech, of a long twilight struggle. So help me here. I do need help. I can't figure out why this adjective twilight. What has he got in mind with this adjective twilight? Why is it a twilight struggle? We associate twilight with what time of day? Evening, yes. Technically, it can be associated with morning, too. But we generally associate it with evening. Why is this a twilight struggle?
To me, it seems that it's almost this struggle against this. We've seen the end of it in the distance for so long that it's still a burden to keep fighting against this, even though it seems like the end is coming near. That's kind of how I read it.
Well, that's good help. Because then a call to bear the burden of a long twilight struggle. So it's hopeful, but he does say long. Yeah.
Maybe because you're sort of never out of the woods of the potential end of
Possibly,
humanity.
Yes, he's not going to play Pollyanna here. He's not going to say we have a new dawn coming around the corner. Because what did he just say? How long might all of this take? Well, he doesn't say 1,000 years. No. Yes, not in the first. Yes, that's right. But he also says, nor in the life of this administration, nor even perhaps in our lifetime on this planet. That's a remarkable addition, and perhaps a concession to human weakness as a whole. Can we forge against these enemies a grand and global alliance, north and south, east and west, that can assure a more fruitful life for all mankind? Will you join in that historic effort? This is a very idealistic message. In the long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. Does he say this is the hour of maximum danger? No. But he then immediately goes on to say, I do not shrink from this responsibility. So there's an implication that it is. I welcome it. Now, we haven't heard I at all in this speech much, except at the very beginning. Why now? Why now?
Because I think he's not saying it as the president. I think he's saying it as a prototype of a citizen of the United States, because he goes on to say that I do not believe any of us would exchange places. So he's kind of a model. He's modeling what he wants them to feel.
Fair enough. I think that's he is combining himself with his audience, and he's going to move to a first-person plural in just a minute. I think there's also another reason. John Kennedy was how old when he became president? 35. No. That's the age at which you can become president. But he and Roosevelt sort of vied for the youngest president ever at that time, Teddy Roosevelt. 42, 43? Yeah, 42. So what do you think of having a president who's 42 years old, who has been in the Senate not very long and has been in a party that opposed Republicans who always said that the Democratic Party was soft on communism. So what is he going to do as a new young leader who is a Democrat? Not only will he align himself with all the citizens, but he will say, and we'll stop in a second, he will say, I do not shrink from it. Now, this is a little bit of a personal message, too. It really is, because one of the things that was said was that in the first summit, Khrushchev was going to test him. And indeed, in their first summit meeting, Khrushchev did test him. And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. You all know this? Where does Kennedy get it from? It's the old motto of the Choate School, where he went to school. Ask not what your school can do for you, ask what you can do for your school. It's true. Now, what does that tell you? That tells you that the more, well, it's true. The more you, probably the most famous phrase in the entire, the more you park language and your love of language somewhere in your head, the more it will later become useful to you. You will know it, you can vary it, and you will be able to employ it. So the old Choate School motto, that's where Kennedy went to secondary school, comes transmuted into this phrase, which will run down the history of political rhetoric in this country as long as that history lasts. And then finally, whether you are citizens of America or citizens of the world, ask of us here the same high standards of strength and sacrifice to lead the land we love. The alliteration goes on, but knowing that here on earth, God's work must truly be our own. In other words, there's not going to be any providential salvation come down. This work is ours, and we must do it. It's a remarkable address, and I hope that you continue to study it and think of imitating it some in your own work.